Hi, Deanna here, and thanks so much for being here. So today's video, I've got a couple of mystery novels that I want to go ahead and provide my thoughts on and give a bit of a review. So the first novel that I'm going to start with is The Maid by Nita Prose. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my notes so that I can provide you some info on The Maid. Alright, The Maid. Like I said, it's written by Anita Prose, and here's my short description that I wrote for it. Molly is very particular when it comes to following orders and ensuring cleanliness. Those traits are what made her such an incredible maid. It's also what has her labeled as weird and robot-like by others. That and her inability to interpret social cues. So, when she ends up in the hotel room of a dead guest, her strange manners and circumstantial evidence have her marked at the top of the suspect list. When she's arrested, she has to rely on others to help get to the bottom of what happened to Mr. Black. So I've seen this one around a lot, especially on like the YouTube circuit and just kind of seeing it out there on different information, different social media sites. So I've definitely seen a bit of The Maid, and it was something that I was intrigued with to go ahead and pick up. And I know it wasn't on my TBR for August, but I get 1 free credit a month by Audible, not sponsored, and I used one of my credits to get the audiobook version of The Maid. I found I was very intrigued by it, and I was kind of in a mystery feeling, and I was just, also I tend to lean towards audiobooks sometimes. I actually had like a nail appointment, and so I couldn't sit there with a book, so I had an audiobook, and I didn't really have any other lined up that I was really looking to get into, and so I thought I would start with The Maid, since I did hear that the audiobook version of The Maid was really great. And I do have to concur, listening to the audiobook version, I really thought the narration that was done, it was done by Lauren Ambrose was the name of the narrator. I thought she did a fantastic job at really capturing Molly and making Molly very much a unique character and someone that you could really get inside her head with the way that Lauren narrated it. I think listening to it on audiobook, I really did get inside Molly's head in a lot of ways based on her narration. I haven't read the actual physical book, so I don't know how that would translate to paper, but just hearing it in Lauren Ambrose's voice and her being able to really make some of those slight inflections and changes, it just really did add to the character of Molly. So I think she did a really fantastic job, and it really did keep me very captivated and interested in wanting to listen to the audiobook. So I was very intrigued and very interested in what was going on. The way that some of the other characters treated Molly, though, I mean, I know Molly kind of comes up as she's possibly neurodivergent. It's not really said, but you do get a sense that she has potentially autism or something going on where she's not really able to read facial expressions well. She's not really able to understand sarcasm and things like that, or she's very, very direct in a lot of ways, and that is some of the ways that some characters misinterpret her, or she may misinterpret them. Like they might say, you know, something offhand of like, oh, we gotta run out of here, and she's gonna be like, oh, I prefer to walk, thank you very much. And so you get that there's something going on with Molly, that she misinterprets a lot of the world, and she had her Nana that helped her through a lot of it, her grandma Nan, but her grandma is no longer with her anymore, so Molly is trying to navigate the world without that protection from her Nana and that ability that her Nana gave her to be able to kind of bounce things off and go, well, what did this person mean by that? So Molly's really navigating the world now on her own, and it's not a very forgiving world in a lot of ways to Molly. It's a pretty harsh world with a lot of people taking advantage of Molly, and just a lot of miscommunication in a very interesting way, because this is something that could easily happen in a way when you do have that kind of misunderstanding of the situation, or you're taking things and you're following rules to a very straight and narrow T, and so when you're following those rules, sometimes when things pop up, it can cause issues when she's not reacting to it in a way that might be deemed as proper by the other characters. And I think in a lot of ways the other characters, some of them were just awful. There's quite a few characters that were just horrible and just really irritated me listening to the book and just hearing the other characters, and not that the voices were, it's just what they were doing or what they were saying was very frustrating. And in some ways, I think potentially we've come to a point where maybe that wouldn't happen as much, but then I don't know, because we have come a long way, but there's still some people that just aren't able to be as accommodating or as understanding, and maybe some other people take information differently than others. So working in the field that I work with, I see firsthand sometimes some of the frustration that people with different abilities have, and how very much they can be taken advantage of. I definitely have seen some of that. So I could see some of it being something that could happen. Some of it was a little far-fetched, but I don't want to get too much into any details or anything because I don't want to spoil anything. Some of it you're kind of left going, but you're also getting everything firsthand from Molly, so you're only going to get her side of things. And it was very interesting how things kind of got pulled back so that we could see what was happening and we could kind of understand things. We didn't really understand them as Molly understood them, because sometimes she was not revealing stuff until later. So it was interesting. I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a really good read. And I was really shocked with some of the twist of the ending. I wasn't expecting some of what happened. So I was very entertained by this book, and I really did enjoy it. So with that, I gave it 4.5 stars, because I could see a little bit of critiques for the novel. Like, I'm not sure if it's really your mystery novel, though there was a bit of, what is going on, what's happening. It was a very short time period. I think it all happened within like a week, and maybe even like a couple days, but yet sometimes we're going like jumping around, maybe like she's thinking back to like months ago. So sometimes it was like, okay, when did all of this actually happen? What is the time frame of all this? It did get a little questionable to me, but that might have just been because I was listening to the audiobook, and sometimes I was doing other things while I was listening to it. So maybe sometimes I just got a little confused as to what was going on. But overall though, this was a 4.5 star for me. So I really did enjoy The Maid. The next one that I'm going to be reviewing today, you're going to get 2 in one video, because it's just 2 little mysteries that I read recently. And that is Mary Higgins Clark, Piece of My Heart. And this one's actually by Mary Higgins Clark and Alafair Burke. So this is by both of them. And this, as I discovered when I was doing my July 2022 haul, which I can link that up above if you haven't checked that out. I actually got this from my Nana, and I didn't realize that this was actually her last book that she wrote until I read the description on the back. So this was actually Mary Higgins Clark's last book. So I thought that was very touching and kind of oh, but yes, it was very interesting, and I'm gonna go ahead and read out the description that I wrote for my summary. In this final book of Mary Higgins Clark's, she writes an interesting and suspenseful mystery of the Under Suspicion series. Lori is finally about to marry her fiancé Alex, giving her and her son, Timmy, some much needed peace and stability. However, during a fun beach trip before the wedding, Alex's 7-year-old nephew goes missing. Was Johnny abducted? And was Lori's 10-year-old son, Timmy, the real intended victim? So with this being the last book of Mary Higgins Clark, and the way that I got this as well, with it being given to me by my Nana as part of that haul that I got, I didn't really realize that it was the last one in the series. I mean, I kind of should have figured when I kind of read some of it, but it didn't really give away. It just said in the back that like it's a former host of her investigative television series. So honestly, I did not realize that this was part of like a series of books, and I ended up reading the last one in the series. So I had a lot. The nice thing is, in typical fashion of a lot of novels when it's part of a series, Mary did a really great job, and Alafair as well, whichever one was responsible for this, but they did a great job at kind of giving you a little bit of what's already happened without complete info dumping. So it was a bit of what has brought us to now, what's kind of going on, what's some of the background. I do feel like I've missed quite a bit of the Under Suspicion series though, and I might want to go back and read where it all started. Like, did she end up falling in love with Alex, her fiance, throughout that series? I'd kind of like to see and kind of see what the series is like, but I came in on the last book. Not the first time that's happened to me when reading books before. It's always a fun adventure. But this one I thought was really, really enjoyable. It was really interesting reading it about around the same time that I was listening to The Maid, because it was such a contrast between the two. Like, The Maid was written in some ways almost as like a YA kind of book. I kind of got like it was a bit more modern, I would almost say. Like, there's an element to it that it was, I could definitely tell that the author's voice was different than this book. This book I felt very much like it was a mystery of other mysteries that I've read before, but that are also a little bit of like a romance too. Not completely, because I don't think they get really, really into romance in this. It's just like a little bit there. But this one was so much going on. There's so many different levels. You were seeing different points of view. Like, the Maid was first person point of view, so you're very much just getting that limited point of view of Molly's, whereas this was third party point of view and kind of like that more omnipresent kind of point of view in some ways, where you were getting to see a bit more. Maybe you weren't seeing everything because it's still a mystery and we got to keep you in suspense and keep you enticed to what's going on, but there was that overarching, like, all-encompassing story of what's the whole picture looking like and how is it all fitting together. So I did find that very interesting, and I found it that it definitely had more of like a mystery feel of who is it and where are all the pieces coming together to kind of fit. Like, with The Maid, again, I didn't feel like we were as invested in the actual mystery. We were more invested in like how is it affecting Molly and what kind of brought Molly to where she is, and it was more like a character driven story, I would say, the one with The Maid, whereas this was definitely more of like the mystery driven, and it was more of the plot driven, I found, and it was more of like what is kind of going on with Johnny missing and the families and how are they gonna get the child back, but also where is the child, who took the child, what do they have in connection, are they somehow related? So it was a lot that we were really trying to pick up all those pieces to really figure out this mystery. So, and a lot, that was a very captivating of trying to like find out. I was flipping pages being like, oh my god, who is it, who did it, what happened, where is this child, like are they gonna find the child, what's gonna happen, like why is the child gone, like what's going on? So it was very much a very good mystery in that way, and kept me very hooked in trying to figure out what was going on. So with that in mind, all of that in mind, I very much gave this a 5-star because I started reading it maybe like a day or two ago and I was so hooked. Like I stayed wrinklied and soaking in the tub until I turned that last page and went, ah, okay, that's all what happened. So I was very much like, oh my goodness, what is going on? I need to read this, I need to understand. So very much a 5-star read, very much enjoyed it, and I will be looking for the other books that Mary Higgins Clark and Alafair have read, and even just Mary on her own. I'll be checking out some of those books and possibly giving you some updates in the future. So 5 stars for me. So that was the 2 books that I have read so far this month in August for the mysteries. And the next one that's on my list is The Secret Wife, and this is another one that I got in my haul from my husband's Nana, and this one is got, I mean, the title alone, The Secret Wife, it's got a bit of that mystery element. It's got a bit of like what's going on, but there's also some like historic things going on because it kind of talks about the Russians, Romanovs, and that kind of stuff going on. So I'm very interested. I literally only have read the first chapter of this, so I'm interested to see where this goes, how it all ties in, and kind of what the secret is that the wife is going to stumble upon. So very interested in checking out this one, and I'll be back with an update on this one in another video. So that's gonna be it for me. So those were my 2 mysteries so far that I have read for this month, and then I'm going to be moving on. I also read another historical fiction kind of mystery, The Woman in the White Kimono, but that was my book club read, and I've got a video already about that one because I absolutely love that one. So check that one out as well. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a like. Comment below if you've ever read any Mary Higgins Clark, or if you read The Maid, and what are your thoughts on The Maid. So I'd love to hear it. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, and you will see me next time. Bye!